In the spring of 1968, the world watched as hope blossomed in Czechoslovakia during a period of liberalization known as the Prague Spring. Under Alexander Dubček's leadership, the communist government introduced reforms promoting freedom of speech, press, and movement, as well as a loosening of state control over the economy. It was a bold experiment in socialism with a human face, but for the Soviet Union, it was a dangerous precedent, a threat to the iron grip of Moscow's rule over its Eastern Bloc allies. While Soviet tanks prepared to roll across the borders, another war was already being waged in the shadows. The KGB, the Soviet Union's formidable intelligence agency, had launched a covert operation to undermine the Prague Spring from within. Through infiltration, manipulation, and psychological warfare, they sought to destabilize the reformist government and pave the way for a full-scale invasion. KGB operatives were embedded throughout Czechoslovakia, posing as diplomats, journalists, and trade representatives. Their mission was twofold: to gather intelligence on Dubček's government and to sow dissent among the population. They cultivated relationships with hardline communists who opposed the reforms, encouraging them to resist Dubček's policies and spread discontent. These operatives also infiltrated pro-reform groups, feeding information back to Moscow while subtly steering these movements toward actions that could justify Soviet intervention. The KGB's psychological operations were particularly insidious. Disinformation campaigns painted Dubček and his allies as pawns of Western imperialism, suggesting that the reforms were part of a larger plot to dismantle socialism in Eastern Europe. Rumors were spread to erode public trust in the government, while Soviet-controlled media amplified stories of chaos and instability in Czechoslovakia. By August 1968, the groundwork had been laid. The KGB's operations had weakened the reformist movement and provided Moscow with the pretext it needed to act. On August 20th, Soviet-led Warsaw Pact forces invaded Czechoslovakia, crushing the Prague Spring under the weight of tanks and troops. Dubček was arrested and forced to abandon his reforms, and the country was brought back into the Soviet fold. For the KGB, the suppression of the Prague Spring was a grim success. Their covert activities had played a crucial role in neutralizing opposition and facilitating the invasion. But for the people of Czechoslovakia, it was a tragedy. A stark reminder of the lengths to which the Soviet Union would go to maintain control. The aftermath of the invasion left deep scars. Thousands fled the country, seeking refuge in the West. Those who stayed faced a harsh period of normalization, where the freedoms they had briefly enjoyed were stripped away, and dissent was ruthlessly punished. The legacy of the Prague Spring became a symbol of both the enduring desire for freedom and the brutal realities of Soviet domination. Even today, the KGB's role in the suppression of the Prague Spring serves as a chilling example of how an intelligence agency can manipulate the political fabric of a nation. It's a story of hope crushed by power, a cautionary tale of how fragile reform can be when faced with the machinery of repression. The shadows of those covert operatives and their deeds linger, a dark reminder of the cost of challenging a superpower's grip.